We got a double header national breakdown here for you guys between the Sword Soul, interesting Predaplant Decklist doing well. Hey, there's all sorts of interesting stuff happening. Don't make the 30% of you guys that have not smashed the living crap out of that subscribe button. Smash it so we can climb up the 100K ladder. The first breakdown that we have for you here is none other than the Ireland or Irish Nationals here. 4 Decklist decks taking down the long grind here, and I will say, in terms of numbers, I am not surprised to see a more competitive scene for this one. Between that and 3 Sword Soul variants here competing with each other to topple out the Irish Nationals. Oh, and then there was the one Flunder player. We shouldn't discount them. The fact that they earned their spot there, carrying themselves all the way up through top cut, is absolutely nothing short of a miracle and its least. And they were able to make it into top 4 with Flunder in that harsh of a competition scene. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for the Birds of Prey getting a nice little counter attack against the metagame. Overall, not too bad. We're going to pass on over to those Irish deck lists now. Winning the Irish National is none other than Matthew Brady here with a first place finish with Sword Soul, grinding out that heavy competition here. The first thing we notice here is the Ghost, Mourner, and Moonlit Chill here. So this is going to be our value generator for this deck. You're going to be able to do what you want to do best with this hand trap. Alright, I also see that Heavenly Dragon Cycle appears to be back in rotation now, with this and the Vessel appearing to be, I guess, genuinely like good trading pieces in terms of value management. Also, you do notice that Incredible Ecclesia has pretty much become a 2-of at this point in time. The card necessarily isn't the same value tree that it used to be, which is actually kind of interesting. Just seeing like the different values and things for this format, really good. Also, Contact C down here. All right, and then of course we have the Croissant Designators in the side deck, so we can kind of slow down and mess up the opponent's day. Overall, not bad for first place here. Top 4. Yes, there it is. We have our first Flunder list that I've seen playing Change of Heart. Now, this is actually kind of interesting. I've kind of had some theory discussion with a few players that they've just looked at this and went, well, you know, honestly, being able to main deck the Change of Heart lets you steal matchups away from your opponent, and that's something that Flunder kind of wants to do. It's a card that allows Flunder to be able to go second, take a more crippling card away from their opponent, such as, you know, a Mirror Jade or something, or at least force the activation of it to get out of the way. That way you can go ahead and establish, you know, big end pen, or, you know, your more devastating cards like the Apex Avian. And it's kind of the thing that, even though this is an unsearchable 1-of, it does give you a little bit more of a tactical advantage for this. As you can see, this deck runs out or grinds out at 41 cards, which is phenomenal, actually. Like, I can see perfectly well how this ended up doing as well as it did. Also, I mean, if you really want to go back to some of the other ways that we've seen Flunder kind of adapting and doing things here, you can very easily cut the Change of Heart and go back down to triple Book of Moon. Alright, it's nothing too short of crazy, and it is very, very doable here. Outside of that, in terms of how this deck is shaping up, most of the ratios here look fine. I also like the double Dreaming Town here. Right? Like, that's something you don't typically see from Flunder players. That's actually pretty cool. And the last we have here from Ireland is none other than Vladis coming in, smashing it down in top 4 here, still playing the Water Enchantress package. Now, I have seen infinite of these builds that are just straying away from playing the Brave package, and I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing that we're seeing the format kind of stray away from this, but it is kind of nice to get that nice little refresher here where you can see that we can return back to our roots here and still do this. The other interesting thing here is we have droplets now. Considering how the format has started to evolve in terms of, I would say, a lot more annoyances being produced here. Droplet being that card that you can just simply activate, board break your opponent, makes this a lot more of a threat at this point in time. So yes, board breaking capabilities are good. Also, the triple copies of Crossout Designator in here is going to round you out a little bit easier for the mirror. Yeah, you don't have as many extensive hand traps, at least in this variant, that you do versus some of the other variants that we've seen, but this build looks like it can grind out a whole lot easier here because you do have the Forbidden Droplet built in. And I mean, Side deck, double Super Poly, triple Nibiru, depending on how, you know, your matchups go. Double D barrier for the mirror. Yeah, you have all of your stops that you really need for this deck, all wrapped up in one very nice bow. I will give it to Vladis. I really like this. All right, we're going to pass it on over to Swedish Nationals. Your Swedish National breakdown is pretty reverse of what we just saw here. We had 3 Sword Soul decks in Top Cut. Now, anybody surprised about that whatsoever? The fact that Sword Soul grinded as hard as it did during the Swedish Nationals. By the way, this Swedish Nationals was won by Sword Soul, which I'm not really surprised about that in the very least, considering the fact that, you know, how their format typically has shaped up at this point in time. But, all right, format, I see you. Honestly, outside of that, you had double Eldlich, you had double Despia. Not really surprised to see that that's what ended up competing either, but okay. And then we had one Tri-Brigade deck being our more roguish competitor for this event, which, once again, interesting stuff, none the least. But all right, let's pass on over for those deck lists now, shall we? First, what we're going to be looking at here out of Swedish Nationals is actually the second place Eldlich deck that played no Cursed Eldlands. We have pretty much stripped the Eldland package out of this, and it's actually kind of an interesting little discussion point. Is by cutting Cursed Eldland, which takes up a spell and trap card zone, you actually, you know, have better use of being able to truly set 5. In the modern format, I believe full value in setting 5 highly outweighs really anything else kind of presented at this point in time. So that's really something big that you need to consider at this point in time, is while Cursed Eldland can be a very, very, very helpful thing to you, at the end of the day, it can hinder your deck's game plan. It's actually kind of hilarious to say that, by the way. Cursed Eldland hindering strategies? But nonetheless, full Lord of Heavenly Sky Prisons. I do like the dualities and extracts in here for full searching, and then you just dive into your 28 trap cards. In terms of trap card distribution, I mean, Ice Dragon's Prisons, just very slept on this form. I'm glad to see that Judgment's Strikes are back in the main deck, so you can basically just hold down the fort. Also, double Trap Trick here, being a little bit of a silent sleeper here. You can pull out Torrentials and Ice Dragons with this, or a punishment if you really need to disrupt the opponent. That's not too bad. I also like the TC Booze down here. You'd be like, oh my god, like this hinders the deck strategy. No, it doesn't. You'll be able to still play the game. You just got to be careful of which zombies you're deploying when. All right, next up here is Herman Hansen's top 4 list for Sword Soul Tenyi. No Heavenly Dragon cycles in here. We are on full Vassal. Double Desires, like I said, has helped this deck out immensely here. I see we have the Ash Blossom Veilers and Ghost Bells in here so that we can grind out against the opponent. All very easy stuff here. Triple Incredible Ecclesia. I do like the fact that there is like a big discrepancy between, do you play 2 of these or do you play 3 of them? One tie seems to be normal now. No Synthana for the level 4. And of course, still getting used to seeing Change of Heart down here. It is very interesting to see like the value management from like the more competitive players via Change of Heart. Like, is this a side card or is this a card that we bring in, you know, built into our main deck so that we can see it, and if we see it going first, we're like, gosh darn it, like it doesn't help out the general pace of the format any. But it is interesting to see the placement of that. Outside of that, not too bad. Congratulations, Herman, for making it all the way here. Next up is this is our first Predaplant version that we have seen doing relatively well out here. And I will say, delicious, ladies and gentlemen. We get to see what this deck can do, and it's all going to be based around just the economics of being able to use Ramaran here via Albion to drop Garden Rose Flora, so you can climb up into some little free real estate here. This deck doesn't do like the crazier extension packages that you've seen some other Predaplant builds do, but nonetheless, yeah, it is pretty manageable, I guess is the word here, for what the little sub package wants to do for this deck. Outside of that, I will say that overall the Predaplant build In terms of adaptability, we'll have to wait and see if it extends out a whole lot more, but this is just the beginning. And then we have our Tri-Brigade Zoodiac. Oh my gosh, talk about a callback here, ladies and gentlemen. The ability, stack them up, make that big old Zeus and laugh at your opponent. This is what a time capsule deck looks like, all right? We went back and we're pulling out the greatest hits of the past formats here, just laughing at our opponent going, ha ha ha, what are you going to do? Triple Revolt, by the way. It's actually kind of cool to see that this deck has been able to withstand the test of time here and become one of those more grinding factors to kind of delay what the opponent wants to do. So overall, kind of looking at how these two events, well, very, very meta-oriented nationals, very, very, very powerhouse players present in the room, and I will say that nothing that we have seen here surprises me whatsoever in terms of event breakdown representation. Please leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think. Make sure you guys smash the living crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. I'll see your beautiful faces back here later in the day, guys. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.